Hello, I'm Malachi Crazy Cat, and today I am going to show you how to make this Shulker box cycling system. So this cycles between different arrays of Shulker boxes. So you can see if we wait a bit, then we get another Shulker box array. And this is basically just we have a bunch of minecarts full of Shulker boxes. However, I will say the more you have in each chest, the longer it takes to the longer it takes to cycle the shulker boxes, just because of the amount of time it takes to insert them back into the minecart chest or the minecart with chest. However, here's a smaller one, and as you can see, this is much quicker. If we wait a few seconds, and then yeah. In this, you can also see I only put 4 in it, and it is much smaller. It also is a lot crazier looking than the big one. So I'm just going to show you how this works and how you can make it, because these are both pretty simple, and they both do the exact same thing. This one's just compressed a lot more, so it looks a lot crazier. And I know it looks big, but it's really simple, and I'm going to walk you through how to make this. One disclaimer before we start the tutorial is that when you put an item into the shulker boxes, it probably won't stay in the same order. So if I were to put a stack of white wool into here, when we click this button, it probably will not be in the last slot of this minecart. As you can see, it's somewhere in the middle now, and it's just always going to do that. It's going to jump all around the order of the shulker boxes. So we're going to start by making one that's a bit big. Well, actually, we're just going to make a bigger one, but not this big. This is really big. It's pretty easy to expand. So to start, we're just going to come up a few blocks off the ground so that I'm not building in the ground, because that makes it a lot harder for a tutorial video. So if I place a dispenser right here, we'll do 5. So we have 5 dispensers. We're just going to put hoppers into the back of every single dispenser. And now we are going to take a block right here and just place hoppers going all the way here. Okay, so now we have hoppers coming out and hoppers coming in. And we're just going to place a redstone torch onto every single one of these. And now we are going to connect these using repeaters. You could also use target blocks on the blocks that the torches are on if you didn't want to use repeaters, but that also takes a lot of weight to make it like that. Okay, so next we're just going to make where the track will be. So we're going to have a few things here. We're just going to start by bringing the track out like this. However, right here, this needs to be its own powered rail. We're going to have a powered rail on this hopper too. So we're just going to place a torch here, and now I can just place them right here. This is what it's going to look like. These are not connected to any other parts of the machine. They're just always powered. So now right here, we need to start bringing 2 blocks down, 1 block up, and 2 blocks down again. Every single one of these is going to be one more array of shulker boxes. Every now and then you have to like split it in a weird way and just have a flat part, which I believe, yeah, over here, for example, you have this corner. Okay, now you just need powered rails to be on every single spot where it comes down, like this. And now we're going to be placing blocks on top of these dispensers with redstone dust. So what this is doing is this is going to power these dispensers. This is just locking the bottom hoppers so no items flow in. And then this is just our track. We will be doing more with the track later. So we're going to need to make a double piston extender like this, except we're going to need one in every single spot. Okay, so now we're going to need redstone dust up here and redstone dust down here. We're going to need a repeater here and a repeater here at 3 ticks. And then bring this down here. Bring this up here, and this activates both. And now if you see when we place the torch here, It'll power that. It will also power these dispensers, but it won't matter because we're just using this to break the shulker boxes. This will be to dispense them. As you can see, it doesn't activate any of the pistons. Now we are going to be installing the actual track powering. We're just going to be placing blocks on every single one of these. Or we're going to be creating a path for redstone dust. So we're going to do this and just bring redstone dust to every single track piece so that it powers it. If this is bigger, you may run into a few problems. And I should not have the music on. Sorry about that, guys. If this is bigger, you may run into a few problems where you need some repeaters in here. It should work. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm not going to make any promises. But now what we're going to be doing is taking a repeater right here and then block, and this should power all of the rails. You need to double check it's powering them all. Okay, so that is working. We'll just leave that there for now. So we're going to come back here and set up our hopper system. I'm going to move this over to here. This will make it a bit easier to do the hopper system. We're going to need a dropper. This dropper needs to aim up. And now we're going to need a circuit right here that is going to fire this dropper every time this item's in it. So we're going to need a comparator reading out from the dropper. We're into our repeater. The rest needs to come out from this block. And we're going to put the comparator on subtract mode. And now we're going to need a target block to activate the dropper. Okay, we're also going to need, since I moved this, I'm going to need to move the redstone. And once again, double check that everything's powering. Yes, it's all powering. Okay, so now we need to take these hoppers into this dropper. So now we're going to need to take a comparator reading from this dropper into a 4-tick repeater, into a block with a torch. You're going to need a torch into a block, into a dropper, into a hopper, which I'm actually going to do sideways. Now we can throw in our non-stackable item. Okay, so now we are going to take a comparator output from this hopper. And we also are going to have a repeater aiming onto this middle piece of the track and 4 ticks. We're going to need a sticky piston with a block and a piece of redstone dust. And we're going to need blocks here to keep them from connecting. Now, you're going to need this redstone dust to be hitting this block. So you cannot direct it like this. It needs to be directed into that block. And then this only outputs a signal strength of 2, so you'll probably need a repeater unless if it's lined up really close like this. However, I'm actually going to use a repeater right here into a block so that this connects, or so that this redstone is directed into this block. And then make sure this repeater is on 4 ticks. And now we are going to be reading a comparator output out of this hopper, and we're just going to take this right here into a repeater, into a block, into a redstone dust, into another redstone dust, a block, and another repeater. So like this. And this will activate this dispenser when it senses there's a shulker box or any item that goes into this item hopper. That will activate the dispensers. And now we just need to wire up the main button. You can really put this wherever you want. I'm going to move it out a bit so that it doesn't mess with these hoppers. So you can wire this up any way you want. You do not need to do it the way I'm doing it. It's pretty simple. So you could do something like this where you have 2 redstone dust. This one which comes down to these hoppers. However, that will make the button look a bit weird possibly. So you could also just do this and bring it down here. We're going to bring this down into a pulse extender right here. So this is just going to extend the pulse. Depending on how big this array is, you may need to put a block right here to make this pulse extender longer. And if it's really big, then you may need to start putting in more comparators if you're noticing that the shulker boxes are getting locked in some of these item hoppers because they don't have enough time to get out. However, this should be small enough that we can just do redstone dust. You need a repeater coming in and out. And now if we click this button, you should see this will unlock. The redstone will slowly die down out of this, and then it'll lock again. And now we're just going to bring this right up to here. So this is just going to come right up here. That will activate the double piston extender and the torches. And then once items come into here and start being put into the chest minecart, this will read out of the dropper into a 4-tick repeater so that this stays on while the items are being spat into the chest minecart. That will turn off this redstone torch, and then when it's done, this will turn back on, shooting this wooden shovel into this hopper, which will be read out into this repeater, into this block, into this redstone dust, which will activate this pulse shortener, which will then be read into a 4-tick repeater, activating all the rails for 4 ticks. And then the minecart right here will come along here. Once the shulker box goes in this hopper, it will activate all of these dispensers. And now we are just going to be putting minecarts in. Make sure they're aiming that way so that they actually cycle around the correct direction. We are going to place a button right here and just jumpstart the system. And just double check this actually works. And it appears to be working. You need to make sure this minecart gets on this at the correct angle and it isn't coming the opposite direction. If it isn't the correct angle, you just need to figure out how many rails are in here. This is what I've noticed works on most designs. And now we can just test and see if this actually works. So we're going to put 5 shulker boxes in each one. I'm just going to do different colors. And I'm going to fill up this last shulker box. And we're just going to use this button to start the system. And this should set everything up. You should see these shulker boxes come out. If for some reason you're noticing these items are coming out into these hoppers, you need to play around with the timings down here and make sure this is not turning on too early. You also should be checking the timings up here and make sure this is not 4 ticks, it's 3 ticks. And if we click this, it should unlock at the perfect time. And we can just look into this chest minecart and you can see that nothing has come out into here. So that's basically how you build it. I hope you learned something about redstone today, and I will see you next time. Bye. Oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.